All right. Hello again, Avengers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is Daily Vlog 2025, number 298. And today, we're going to talk about money. First things first, if you haven't picked it up yet, pick up The Hearth Witch's Guide to Magic and Murder, Book 1 of the Hemlock Saga by USA Today best-selling author Kiri Callaghan. Links are in the description down below. Again, I am not in any way sponsored by Kiri or her book publisher or anything. She's just my friend. She wrote a really awesome book. I want everyone to buy it, so I get nothing from this. That being said, I was looking through the Reddits, like you do, and I saw a post that I'm actually surprised at how split it was in the comments. The post effectively just said, "Why would anyone pay for D&D?" And the response is half of them were effectively, "You're pathetic if you pay for D&D." And the other half was, "Well, paying for D&D isn't that bad." But there was no one that was actually in support of the idea. And so for anyone that is unaware, you can be a professional dungeon master. And by that, I mean you can get paid to run D&D or really any other tabletop RPG. However, you're going to have a significantly easier time getting paid if you run D&D. And it's simply because the market is much, much bigger. It's not to say that you can't make a living not running D&D. It's just harder. You're basically playing the game on hard mode, which some people prefer. One of the things that comes up quite often is people tend to be kind of repulsed by this idea of why would you ever pay for D&D. D&D is supposed to be with a bunch of friends. If you have to pay someone to be your friend, that is just despicable. And that's not what professional dungeon mastering is about. Cards on the table, I have been a somewhat professional DM before. One of the stores that I actually organized their D&D program for, which I did voluntarily 100% for free because I wanted a place to play Dungeons and Dragons. However, while I was organizing, we went from like 4 to 5 people showing up once a week to over 30. The store itself was not a big store. We completely took over the store. Every bit of space in the store was occupied by D&D players on Wednesday nights. And the manager decided that we were not a good enough investment. And so he started effectively charging us to be able to use the store. But the way that it worked is players would come in, they would purchase a token for, I think it was like $2. And then they'd go sit down at a table, and whoever was running the game would have to collect a token from every player. And then at the end of the night, the DMs would go up to the register and they would turn in their tokens, and then for each token that they turned in, they would get $2 on a gift card that they could use in the store. So I effectively got paid in gift cards, but it was actual money, and I used it to buy things like all of my dungeon tiles that you see on the bottom there. All of those I purchased with that. I purchased the adventure, one of my favorite adventures ever, the Madness at Gardmore Abbey. I purchased that. I purchased all of my D&D adventure board games. Purchased all of those with that. I made a few $100 over the months that I was at that store doing it. I made several $100s. It was nice. So I understand some of the aspects of being a professional dungeon master. And I just wanted to clear up a few of the kind of misconceptions and preconceptions that people have about not only professional DMing, but about being a player who pays for Dungeons and Dragons. And in addition to I myself having done it in a limited fashion, I actually have friends, one person in particular who was, I think may still be, a professional dungeon master. Like that is their 100% full-time job. We've had conversations about it. Yeah, so let's start because most people tend to have a lot of preconceived notions about the dungeon masters as opposed to the players. We'll get to the players, we'll end with the players, but let's talk about the dungeon masters first. So, being a professional dungeon master, why would you do it? Well, to take a line from a great movie, never do anything for free that you're good at, or something akin to that. I think is if you're good at something, never do it for free. The idea that someone could be paid to be a dungeon master, yes, it is a particular skill set. And it is not something that everyone can just do intrinsically. Some people have to work at it. Some people just have a natural predisposition to, playing pretend and putting on a show and stuff like that. So it makes it easier for them. But I don't think I've ever met someone that was able to just sit down at a table, having never worked at all in any way, shape, or form to become a dungeon master and run a perfect game. It's just not something that can happen. So, part of being a professional dungeon master is your skills are to a level that people are willing to pay for it. And that's a big deal. And I want to kind of emphasize the fact that being a professional dungeon master comes with responsibility, as does everything. Like, why would you ever get someone to paint your house? That's something that a bunch of friends get together and do. Why would you ever have someone pay to change your oil? That's something that you could just do. Why in the world would you ever pay someone to feed you? Like, that's something that your family should do. It's the same reason every single time. There is a convenience aspect to it, and there's a quality aspect of it. If you are paying someone to do something, you are expecting them not only to do a high quality job, but to know how to do the job already. Part of that payment is I'm not going to have to waste my time learning how everything works. I am using money to get someone else to deal with that for me. So part of being a professional dungeon master is you do have an obligation. You do need to know what you're doing, and you have to have put some work into what you do. Now, does that mean that you have to have like a subscription to Chipoku and have, an entire soundscape, and you have to have, 3D terrain for all of your players? No. But it does mean that when you sit down at the table, you need to know what you're doing. You need to be ready. You can't really expect people to pay you and then for you to show up and then just wing it, and give them kind of a subpar experience. If someone's going to pay you, then it is your responsibility to give them an experience that is worth paying for. And there's a number of different ways to do that. I've mentioned this before. Start Playing, I think it's startplaying.org, is a website where you can advertise your services as a professional dungeon master, and you can, as a player, you can actually go and pay DMs to run games for you. And it's a fantastic service. There are a lot of people that really, really enjoy that. But again, the idea of paying a dungeon master is they will tell you, hey, this is how it's going to go. And then you pay them, and that's what happens. Whereas if I walk into a friendly local game store where I'm not playing, or I just, talk to a bunch of friends and we all sit down to play D&D or Pathfinder or Cypher or whatever we've decided to play, there's always a chance that it's going to go a little bit differently. We're not 100% certain. And we can't really always ensure that we're going to get the exact experience we want. Different dungeon masters focus on different things. If you are paying a dungeon master, you're allowed to kind of pick the one where you go, hey, I really, really like combat. Like, that is my favorite part of Dungeons and Dragons is I like the combat. I like making really powerful characters and just destroying bad guys. Well, then finding a DM who lists that as one of their strengths is something that you're going to look for. And that's probably going to be something that when you're talking to this person going, hey, this is what I'm looking for, making that emphasis, saying that I really like combat is going to be able to make it so they can go, well, then maybe this isn't the table for you because I tend to do a lot more role-playing than I do combat. Or someone going, hey, I love combat too. That's perfectly fine. Now, me personally, as a DM, I tend to do a lot more role-playing than I do combat. It's not that I think combat is evil or anything. It's just that's the way I run my games. If I have players that want a very combat-heavy environment, I can do that. I probably wouldn't use D&D to do... Well, I mean, it's gotten easier. With D&D Beyond's combat builder thing, it does make it easier to run combat in D&D 5th edition. But to be blunt, if somebody wanted to play something very combat-oriented, I would probably run something like Daggerheart. It's just easier in my personal opinion. Or Fabula Ultima is another one that combat for me was just really smooth, really simple, really easy to run. Open Legend is another one that I can run combat, every single day and never get tired of it. But anyway, enough about my preferences. So yeah, as a dungeon master, you should, first of all, you need to know what you're good at and what you struggle with. And if you want to get jobs, you need to put the work in to be worthy of being paid. You can't just expect people to pay you because, well, there's a DM shortage. Yes, but you are competing with people that are exceptionally good at what they do. That's why people pay them. And I don't believe there is anything wrong with a dungeon master charging for their services. Again, this takes a lot of time and work and money to do, especially if you add additional touches. Like if you're doing 3D terrain, Dwarven Forge is expensive, is incredibly expensive. And the stuff that you get from Dwarven Forge is just gray plastic. So if you want to create, like if you're painting all of your stuff, like paint costs money, your time costs money, all that stuff is expensive. You have invested in this. I don't believe there's any problem with you expecting some sort of return on that investment. Does that mean that I think it's okay if you've been running a table, with your friends for like 3 or 4 years going, hey, by the way, next week it's $25 for you guys to play? No. Like, that's a little bit scummy. But if you go to a place like Roll20 has a looking for group place where you can offer paid games and things like that, or again, startplaying.org, or there's quite a few other sites that you can do that, or even just going to your friendly local game store and advertising, hey, do you want a dungeon master? Well, I charge this much a session, get enough people together to get my fee, and I'll start running a game for you. I don't see anything wrong with that. You're providing an entertainment service for someone else, and when you compare, like, the average price on something like startplaying.org is anywhere between about $10 to about $25 or $30 per person per session. If you look into something like going to see a movie, that will easily cost you $20 to $30. And you will, and that's before drinks and everything like that. You will be able to see, depending on the movie that you choose, you will be able to have a decently fun time for about hour and a half, 2 hours-ish. A D&D game, on average, is going to be around 4 hours. And it is much more customized to what it is that you want. The movie is never going to change. The movie is the movie is the movie is the movie. So this idea of like, well, I could never pay, $20 just to play D&D. Well, you pay $20 for a lot of other things that give you significantly less kind of bang for your buck. Um, so, yeah. So let's talk about players. Again, most people, like most of the conversation tends to be around DMs and how despicable they are that they're charging people for their services. But I have seen some groups like, why in the world would you ever pay for D&D? That's pathetic. It's not. Again, the idea of paying for something is once money has changed hands from a legal perspective, that actually creates a contract. Now, the terms of that contract are going to be, let's say, malleable. But the fact that money changed hands from a legal perspective actually changes things, and allows for civil damages and things like that when things are not presented the way they're supposed to. So if you have specific needs that are very difficult to have met at like a friendly local game store, like maybe you can only play Thursday afternoons, because maybe again it might be that you work something like retail where your schedule, you don't get up in the morning and go to work and then come home at night. You might work nights. You might be a truck driver where you're on the road, for 5 or 6 days at a time, and so you only really have one day off, and it's a weird time. So in instances like that, being able to not have to sit there and walk through and jump through all these hoops and, well, are you guys available? Nope. If you're paying someone to play D&D, first of all, you are going to guarantee that the game is going to go on, because the evil scheduling monster, once money changes hands, they can't go, oh, well, we couldn't play today, so I'm just going to keep your money. Nope, that's not allowed. So it does guarantee that you're going to be able to play, and part of that process is guaranteeing that it's going to happen at a certain time on a certain date for a particular amount of time, and that stuff just doesn't happen at a home game or even at a friendly local game store. It's always up to the whims of scheduling and all these other things, but once money starts changing hands, things become more concrete. The other aspect of it is when somebody pays for something, they have a much stronger connection to this the thing. I've mentioned this before. In every transaction ever, everybody always gives away something of lesser value for something of more value on both sides. Like if I'm going to a restaurant to get a hamburger, the money that I give them for the hamburger is less valuable to me than the hamburger that they are giving me. And on the other side, the hamburger and all of the work that went into it is less valuable to the people giving me the hamburger than the money I am giving to them. Everyone always gives something of lesser value for something of greater value. That's how all of this works. Because of that, when people actually pay for things, there's significantly less chance that people are going to flake out or just go, oh, I didn't want to do it today. So there are benefits from kind of a scheduling standpoint for paid games, simply because once you start paying for things, you don't want to just skip out on it or miss a session or something like that, because it's something that you've paid for. Then the final aspect of why would someone pay for D&D, for the consistency of it. Again, a paid DM is going to say, hey, this is what I do, this is what I don't do, these are the things that I'm good at, these are the things that I'm not good at. And if they're not doing that, you might want to look for another one. And if the DM that you kind of match up with doesn't quite work for you, you stop paying them and you go to a different DM. And there's no hard feelings. Again, it's transactional. And so that guarantee of, I'm going to pay this person, they're going to run the kind of game that I want to run at the time that I want to run it, with the people that I want to run it with. those are all worthwhile reasons to pay for something to happen. Um, Again, this idea that somehow it's pathetic, or somehow it's a lesser version of D&D if money is involved, absolutely not. In fact, I would say if people are paying the DM, I would expect, bare minimum, that the experience I'm going to have for me personally should be of a higher quality than something that I could just get at a friendly local game store. So something like that. That's the entire purpose of paying for it. Now, does that mean that everybody needs to go out and start paying for D&D? No. Different strokes for different folks. Like for me, I run 3 different games. 2 of them are D&D. One of them is Cypher System right now. None of my payers have ever paid me a damn thing. And I have never paid any of my players. I also haven't made any money off of it. But that's a different matter entirely. We all have a ton of fun. Does that mean that I've never considered becoming a paid DM? Absolutely not. Years ago, I actually sat down with a few of my players when I was having a hard time getting a job before I became permanently disabled. I could not get a job. I couldn't get an interview to save my life. And so I'm like, well, what if I started professional DMing? And I sat down with my players. I said, well, would you guys be willing to pay for this? And the consensus with them was, we like you. If you need the money, that's fine, but we don't want to pay for D&D. And that was perfectly okay. It didn't hurt my feelings. It didn't hurt their feelings. That just isn't what they wanted. And to be blunt, if I was to have that exact same conversation with my players now, I think it would go differently. I've been playing with a lot of these people for 5 to 7 years. A few of them have been playing for almost a decade with. They know, not to toot my own horn, they know that I am extremely good at what I do. And I run very, very good games. Even when I'm off my game, in my humble opinion, I think I can out DM most DMs out there and give a more engaging, entertaining experience, because I've worked really, really hard to become as good as I am. And again, I think quite a few of my players would back me up on that. So yeah, I've considered becoming a professional DM, and if I can ever get my my disabilities more under control, like I will never be able to work a traditional job for the rest of my life. My brain is completely broken. And I just simply cannot handle a traditional job anymore. I will freak out and implode on myself. But if I could get my panic attacks under control in any way, shape, or form, it is infuriating how little control I have over something as simple as anxiety. I've considered, as a way to supplement my income, becoming a professional DM and then publishing TTRPG materials to actually support myself. Now, as of right now, it's just not possible. I have a hard enough time running my games, and I have to cancel on a fairly regular basis because my brain hates me. But it's something I considered, and I would not feel bad in any way, shape, or form for doing it. I'm very good at what I do, and I believe I could be paid for it. And anyone that paid me would be very, very happy with the product that they got because of that payment. Now, the other thing about being a professional DM is, and this comes from my professional DM friend, you are not going to be running exclusively home games or something like that. One of the things that this friend of mine did is he would actually run, I guess you could call it corporate DM, businesses and stuff like that, like team building experiences. And so one of the things that he would do is he would actually run D&D games for businesses, for like management teams or things like that. And it was used as a way to kind of build camaraderie between the staff. It's a remarkably effective way to get your staff to, work together better. Um, and business games paid remarkably well, because these are the same people that will, for a team building experience, will lay down $1,000 easily without blinking. So yeah, if you're considering becoming a professional dungeon master, don't shy away from the idea of corporate DM. It will probably make you a shit ton more money than any home game that you're going to run, and it's not a bad gig. You're not going to be going into a Wendy's and then running Feasts of Legend or something like that. You're not going to be giving the corporate propaganda. You're just there to help people bond over Dungeons and Dragons. So, anyway, interested to hear from you guys. First of all, do we have anyone that's ever done any either professional DMing or have been a player that has actually been part of a professional game where you've paid to play? Let me know your stories in the comments down below. And if not, why not? Is it something that you find reprehensible, like a lot of people on Reddit do? Is it just not your thing because you have your own game? I'm interested to hear what other people think. So, anyway, it's going to be all for me today. I will see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.